So good morning, Paddy Upton, mental coach for Gukesh, and just not Gukesh. I mean, look at his track record: 2011 India Cricket World Cup, the Hockey Olympic medal in 2024, and now Gukesh Domaraju. Paddy Upton's contribution to Indian sport is less to none, and that is the conversation that I will be having with Paddy, who is a dear friend of mine this morning. Paddy, firstly, many congratulations. What a night it was. Just describe that moment. Describe that feeling and describe that moment.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was incredible. I mean, first of all, after game 12, when the scores were still tied, I just I wasn't going to come to Singapore, but I just had a really strong feeling that I needed to fly here and be here to watch Gukesh win. I had a strong feeling, so I flew in just to watch the last two games. And to be honest, as that game yesterday was coming down to the wire, the computer was saying the chance of draw was in the high 90%. A lot of people were leaving, but I happened to be sitting, right in front of the box watching Gukesh. And the most amazing thing, I mean, Boria, I don't know very much about chess at all. And Gukesh made a move and Ding made a move. And I saw something was happening on the board. And I heard this gasp going out in the audience. And I was sort of turning around in the place you're not allowed to speak, saying, What happened? Tell me, what is the gasp? Are you gasping because something's happened? And I don't know chess well enough to know what was it that happened. And then I saw Gukesh's hands go into space, and there was drama that I was witnessing, but I don't know enough about chess to know what was the drama. And then somebody said to me, Ding just made a huge mistake and Gukesh is about to win. So the fact that the win came out of absolutely nowhere, everybody thought, even the computer said this game's going to be a draw. That made it just so much more dramatic.
Yeah, I was speaking to Vishwanathan Anand, and he said it's a draw. So I said, so tomorrow tie breaks. He said yes, and we were actually talking about the tie breaks and all of that, and how do we cover it, and all of a sudden, I mean, and that's what Anand said to me. I sent you the interview that it was also about attitude, and that is what my question is to you, Paddy. 6 months back, when you joined the team as mental coach, how did it all happen? And what did you work on? What did you work on specifically for this championship on Gukesh? Tell me a little bit in detail.
So, I mean, over the 6 months we spent, probably an hour and a half every week on the call, really deep diving into managing his mind. Things like when you make a mistake, it always happens in chess, and you realize afterwards that you made a mistake and put yourself in a compromising position or maybe losing a winning position. How do you manage that mistake to become present when you're ahead in the game? How does Gukesh manage himself and not get excited and not over force towards getting a result? When he's behind in the game and he's really under pressure, how does he manage himself there? Down to a lot of people were writing Ding off because of his form. And one of the narratives that you had with Gukesh, and certainly his coach, Gayu as well, was saying, we need to prepare for Ding arriving in his best form. You cannot be reading and believing anything you hear in the media. And even Magnus Carlsen was putting Gukesh as a favorite because of Ding's form. But we worked on ignoring all of that narrative and just making sure that Gukesh was 100% prepared for Ding at his best and able to beat him. And I think the way a lot of people were commenting that Gukesh wasn't resigning or retiring, I'm not a chess person, so I don't pretend to use the right lingo, but Gukesh kept Ding at the table when the game was an obvious draw on a number of occasions, and people asked why, but it was part of the process of wearing Ding down, putting pressure on him, keeping him at the board, because Ding was clearly physically in not a great space, and mentally he seemed to be struggling, and Gukesh wanted to, and that was part of the strategy, was to put as much pressure as possible. And even last night, when everyone thought it was a draw, the computer said it was going to be a draw, people were going home, Gukesh was preparing for the next day. He wanted to keep Ding at the table for as long as possible, tie him out, put pressure on, which maybe might have had him arrive at the table today, if it was a tiebreaker, just that little bit more tired. So he was looking to eke every single 1% out of the game. And it was just the most beautiful example of never giving up. Even when spectators are leaving, the computer says it's not going to happen. It was a beautiful example. Don't give up until it's genuinely over. And we saw what happened last night.
Beautifully said. And if that was the thing that you worked on, unbelievable. And this is what sport is all about. Never say never. Vishwanathan Anand said it yesterday. You're telling me now that, look, this is also about attitude and not just his gameplay. The one question I wanted to ask Paddy, you've worked with him 1 hour, 1.5, whatever, every week over the last 6 months. But over the last couple of weeks, 3 weeks, starting mid-November to today, did you speak much? Or because I was listening to you saying to the host broadcaster and that interview post-match saying, no, I did not need to because I had already gotten him there. But even after that reverse of the 12th game when Ding came back splendidly, did you have a quiet chat with him? How did the last 3 weeks pan out?
Yes. So, in fact, even the last 3 weeks in the lead up to the tournament, one of the things that I'd said, to Gukesh was, we're not going to cover anything new. Now it's just a reminder of your strategy, of your mental strategy, a reminder of what we've spoken about. Don't want to bring anything new. And even, we summarized the 6 months work into literally a 2-page, and it was just diagrams, not very many words, as to his mental strategy. And my thinking and the conversation with him is that champions arrive as champions. And they don't become champions when they win the final game or win the gold medal. You arrive as a champion, and winning at the end is just confirmation that you've been on the right journey. So that was the whole approach, and my philosophy was, I want Gukesh to be ready that he doesn't need to speak to me at any point. And I was very happy that he didn't pick up the phone after the 12th game when he lost his 1-game advantage and Ding came back to beat him. And there was a 1 day off. Gukesh did reach out and we had a nice long conversation. And it was really just about pressing the reset button on everything that had happened, get him back into being fully present, excited about the next 2 games, revisited the fact that he was living his dream, and to really be in the dream, revel in that dream. And, just 1 or 2 minor things about, he hadn't been sleeping as well as he'd like to sleep. He was a little bit tired of the ball once or twice. So we just did a couple of really fine-tune or minor things which, afterwards he said helped him sleep a little bit better. So he could arrive at the board fresh and not tired after 12 games, but fresh, re-energized and living the dream for the last 2 games. So he arrived at the last 2 games with a mental freshness and a great attitude.
Super. Last couple of questions. One, he's 18 years of age, so clearly his best is yet to come. He will get better and better. And he made this point in the press conference, I think, that yes, he knows he's world champion, but he also knows that the best player in the world is Magnus Carlsen, and he wants to leave a similar legacy. I thought fantastic words, way beyond his age. What stood out for him? Stood out for you, Paddy? Because as I said, you worked with the 2011 team, one of the greatest teams in Indian history. You worked with the hockey team, someone like a Srijesh and a Harman. Now you worked with Gukesh. What stood out for you as far as Gukesh is concerned?
I would say, chess is the 20th sport that I've worked in now over the last 20 odd years, and pretty much at the highest level. If I were to thumb suck, it's over 350 of the best athletes from those 20 sports. I would place Gukesh in the top 5 when it comes to his self. As an 18-year-old, that's a huge statement but the first thing that really stood out is self-awareness. His ability to be able to self-reflect, understand what's going on in his mind, and to have really deep conversations. His self-awareness and his ability to self-reflect was beyond his years. And as I said, probably in the top 5 I've ever worked with. He was incredibly open and what we call in coaching world coachable, that he was engaging, he was open, he was like a sponge, he was hungry to learn, he asked great questions. And at the same time, being a young Indian, he didn't just take everything I said as gospel. He listened, he took it on board, and then he discerned for himself what he was going to use and what he was not going to use, which is also, again, a maturity beyond his years. And then, I knew from very early on, and the evidence was there as well, that here's a guy with genuine big match temperament. And you don't get many athletes across the sports with a genuine big match temperament, meaning they're able to play their best game in the most consequential and high pressure situations. Gukesh proved it in the candidates. He didn't arrive at the candidates on the greatest of form, but he was able to play his best chess. to contest for the World Championship. In the chess Olympiad earlier this year, with they won spectacularly, he arrived and played some of his best chess and the most clutch moments. And that's why, Singapore is 17 hours from South Africa. I chose to fly here for the last 2 games because I had come to know that here is a guy who, when the pressure is really on in the biggest moment, is someone who's got a very good chance of delivering the goods. And I'm so glad I did come to witness it live.
I'm so glad on behalf of every Indian as your friend that you were there. I'm so glad. But last 2 points, just to put it in context, you said top 5. Tell my viewers the top 4, because they will understand where you are putting Gukesh. At least give us an idea of the top 4.
Yeah, as I said, it's not an absolute, and I wouldn't put him at number 5 or number 1. But other guys who had that. Virat Kohli, I've been lucky to work with Virat for quite a long time now. And Virat's got an amazing awareness of his mind. He's a consummate professional and he delivers under the highest pressure. A Rahul Dravid, consummate professional. And there's something that I haven't mentioned, that Gukesh, for me, an athlete achieving world championship status or gold medal, that's not greatness for me. That's a great athlete, but a true greatness is when you have someone who delivers at the highest level but is a really solid, good, grounded human being of sound character. And that for me is what makes Gukesh great. And if anyone wants to listen to a masterclass in humility, a masterclass in media management, if you listen to Gukesh's interviews, but his press conference after winning, so full of emotion. People asked him, about his game. He spent 4 or 5 minutes acknowledging his opponent Ding. He spoke about Ding with incredible humility. I can tell you, it was not a scripted speech. Then they asked him a little bit later, tell us what are the things that you really did well on your journey to get here. And he went and he spoke about everyone other than himself. He spoke about his team. He spoke about his parents. He spoke about God. He was very generous in his praise towards me, towards his whole coaching staff. And they pushed him. And what did you do well? And he defaulted again to the people that supported him. And it was a masterclass in humility, unscripted humility. It showed the character of the person. And when you get a successful athlete, celebrity, businessman, politician, who is also a great human being, then we're talking about true greatness. And at 18 years old, not only on the chessboard, but in the game of life, Gukesh is a true gem. And what's really important now that he has really good people around him, good support around him. He's going to have challenges going forward on and off the board, but he has the ingredients and is already shown, to be a true great. And at 18 years old, that's uncanny to have that. We've got a really special human being here, not just a special chess player.
I completely agree. And I just want to add to that, if you know his father well, I'm sure you do, you will know where it is coming from, because Dr. Rajnikant is, and you can understand where that humility, that modesty, and these virtues of being a good human being comes from. Yesterday, I had messaged him. He and I have been regularly in touch. And today morning at 4:40 a.m. India time, he responds saying, I'm sorry I was delayed. And then we had a long WhatsApp conversation. And you can understand how humble and how modest and how these people are as human beings. So there's no debate on that. But Paddy Upton, what was the dinner last night? What did you guys have and what was the talk?
Well, I'll tell you, the real interesting thing was, while I'd worked with Gukesh for 6 months and, we had the most in-depth and personal conversations, not just about his chess, but about all aspects of his life. I feel I know him so well. Only after he won the World Championship and walked into the press conference, that was the first time I'd met him in person. Up until then, I had not in person met Gukesh. So that was just a wonderful moment for us to actually connect in person for the first time. And then, the dinner afterwards, in, I guess, what one would anticipate from a humble person like that, it was, his father, his sponsor, his coach, 1 or 2 people who were really close to him. And it was a dinner, 8 of us, and the celebration, I think, but in all 8 of us until 2:00 in the morning, I think there was 3 beers drunk between 8 people. So
what did you have? Because he only has Indian food.
This time we went up and we had Thai food. So it was all, he's a vegetarian. So it was, the celebration was over, stir fries and chicken fried rices and tom yum soups and vegetarian stir fries and Coca-Cola. So
I'll leave it at that, Paddy Upton. But once again, I say this: 2011 Cricket World Cup, after 28 years, the hockey medal, back-to-back medals. This time was so important for Indian hockey to win that one in Paris. And now Gukesh Domaraju at 18. You've done a great job for Indian sport. So it's very, very important to put that in context and to put that in the public domain. And that is why I thought this interview was important. As mental coach, as more, you've made a significant contribution. Stay the way you are. Look forward to catching up with you in the conclave in March. I hope you come. I hope we are able to get you there, because absolutely, Gukesh will come. So will Vishwanath and Anand. I hope you are there. We'll have a fabulous time together.
Awesome.
Thank you very much, Paddy.
Thank you, Bori. And again, I'm very grateful yet again to have been a visitor, invited to come and spend some time, initially, as you said, at the Indian cricket party, then at the hockey party, and now very grateful and blessed to have the invitation to join Gukesh and his party and add some value to him. So deeply grateful for these opportunities, and yeah, onwards and upwards for Gukesh.